Let's be real for a second. Have you ever finished a workday with an aching neck, a throbbing lower back, or shoulders so stiff you can barely move? If you're nodding along, you're not just having a bad day. You're part of a huge silent epidemic. So today, we're going to put on our detective hats and solve the case of the aching office worker.
And here is our first major clue. A recent study in Scientific Reports found that a staggering 80.81% of office workers deal with work-related musculoskeletal pain. Think about that. That's more than 8 out of every 10 people feeling pain at their desks, just because of their job. This isn't just a minor annoyance, folks. It's a massive health crisis hiding in plain sight.
So, that leads us to the big question, right? What are the hidden forces really causing all this? Is it just about slouching in your chair, or is there something way more complex going on behind the scenes? Well, we're about to follow the evidence and find out. Okay, first things first, we need to understand just how big this problem is. To figure out who the culprits are, we have to map out the crime scene. And in this case, the crime scene is your body. So where does it hurt the most? Well, the neck is the #1 victim, with almost 59% of workers reporting pain right there. The lower back is not far behind, at over 52%, and then you've got the shoulders. And listen, these are not just random aches and pains. They are very specific, patterned responses to the way we work today.
All right, with the crime scene all mapped out, our investigation now turns to the physical evidence. We're talking about the workstation itself, the desk, the chair, the monitor. You know, they all have a story to tell.
The investigators in this study used a tool called ROSA. Think of it like a safety inspection for your desk setup. Any score of 5 or higher means you're in a high-risk environment. Well, the average score they found was 5.40. That means most office setups are officially hazardous. And the #1 offender? You guessed it, the office chair.
And this is where it gets crazy. Check out the chair's biggest failures. An unbelievable 99% of chairs had seat depth that you couldn't even adjust. 84% had hard armrests, which just creates pressure points. And 65% had armrests that were way too far apart, forcing people into these really unnatural postures. Your chair is supposed to support you, but for most people, it's basically an accomplice to the crime.
And the monitor is just as guilty. The most common mistake is having the screen too high. That's true for 44% of people, and it forces your neck into this constant state of extension. On top of that, another 34% have their screen angled to the side, which causes twisting. These aren't just minor comfort issues. They are chronic stressors on the delicate muscles in your neck.
And we can't forget about our hands and wrists. The evidence here is just wow. A massive 93% of workers bend their wrists sideways when they type. 77% have a mouse that isn't aligned with their shoulder. These sustained, awkward positions create a direct pathway to strain, not just in your wrists, but it travels up to your shoulders and even into your neck.
And here's the kicker, summed up perfectly by the study. Something as simple as the height of your chair isn't just about your back. The evidence shows it's directly connected to pain in your knees, your shoulders, and your upper back. It's like a chain reaction, and it very often starts right where you sit.
Okay, so we've looked at all the physical evidence. It seems like an open and shut case of bad ergonomics, right? But hey, every good mystery has a plot twist. And it turns out there are other forces at work here. Culprits you can't even see. Just ask yourself this. What if you have the perfect ergonomic setup? You've got the fancy chair, everything's adjusted just right, but you still feel pain. This question leads us to a really powerful and often overlooked piece of the puzzle. And here it is. This is the smoking gun of our investigation. The researchers found a statistically significant link between high job stress and pain in every single one of the major hotspots. Your neck, your back, your shoulders, their pain levels can literally rise and fall with your stress levels. This is not a coincidence. It's a direct connection. Stress causes muscle tension, and when that tension is chronic, it leads to pain.
And the plot thickens, especially when we talk about lower back pain. The study found other accomplices. The older you are and the longer you've been on the job, the higher your risk. But look at the modern factors here. More daily mobile phone use and less physical activity were also seriously linked to more pain. So it's not just your desk job, your whole lifestyle is playing a part.
So we've identified the physical culprits and the psychological ones. Now it's time to connect the dots and see how all of this works together to create something called work-related musculoskeletal disorders.
This is the official name for the crime we're investigating. And WMSDs aren't like a sudden injury from a fall. No, they're damage that builds up over time from all that repetitive strain, those awkward postures, and just sustained exertion. It's a slow burn that eventually leads to chronic pain and dysfunction.
This slide really brings it all home, especially for lower back pain, which was the #2 complaint. On one side, you've got the physical stuff, the monitor, the chair, the keyboard. On the other, you've got your age, job stress, and even how much you use your phone. The key takeaway is that they all contribute. You can't solve this problem by only looking at one side of the equation.
And here's one last fascinating clue the data turned up. In this study, men actually reported significantly more neck and shoulder pain than women did. And get this, if you're a manager, you're significantly more likely to have lower back pain, maybe because of higher work pressure and just spending more hours sitting. Your actual job title can be a risk factor. Who knew?
Okay, our investigation is pretty much complete. We've identified the culprits, we understand their methods, so now let's turn all this evidence into a concrete action plan to protect your own health.
Here is your 3-step plan, based directly on everything we just found. Number 1, audit your ergonomics. You don't have to buy a $1,000 chair. Use simple, cost-effective fixes like a monitor stand or a keyboard tray. Number 2, acknowledge and manage your stress. See it for what it is, a physical risk factor, just as real as a bad chair. And number 3, interrupt your sitting regularly. The study linked just sitting for too long to pain, so get up, stretch, and break that cycle.
This quote from the researchers really summarizes our whole case perfectly. You need a comprehensive approach. Fixing your posture is fantastic, but it might not be enough if you don't also manage your stress. It's the combination of all these efforts that leads to real, lasting relief.
And so, we close our investigation with a question for you. Right now, look around at your desk, your chair, your screen. Think about your stress levels, your daily habits. Your workstation is telling a story. What is yours saying about your health?